as we welcome in the voice of the Locked On 49ers podcast and one of our favorites to do it, our man Crocky, Eric Crocker. What's up, man?
What's good, y'all? How y'all doing?
Yeah,
we good, man. What's good with your Croc?
Oh man, chilling. Hey, I like coming on here because there's somebody else with a raspy voice like me, so I like that.
That's KC, maybe KC, born in California, but sound like you from New York.
Yeah.
Man, how scary is Trey? Like, I'm just looking. Browns All-Pro returning receiver Jakeem Grant feared to have torn his Achilles at practice today. How scary? Like, I know as a ball player, Crocky, you're hyped to get out there, you're hyped to work, but yo, do like when you see reports like this come in, like as a player, don't you get nervous a little bit? You think about it? Do you try to put it out of your mind?
Nah, it wasn't something that even crossed my mind at all. I'd say the only time I ever thought about tearing an ACL or something was probably when it's like, am I going to make this team? I'd be better off tearing my ACL so I still get paid. So that was the only time. Outside of that, you prepare, you get ready, you train as well as you can. And, if an injury happens, then, that's just the cards you're dealt. That was just in the plan. But, and I saw ACLs definitely happen when I was there with the New York Jets. Aaron Berry, he was a cornerback that they signed as a free agent. He tore his ACL. Vidal Hazelton, he was a receiver there. He tore his ACL. So it's definitely something that happened.
Hey, Crocky, you were at training camp over the weekend, and thank God the 49ers finally got a day off yesterday. It feels like they had practiced every day since like July 22nd or whenever camp started. They've been getting after it. And we talked a little bit on here about the whole thing with Fred Warner and Brandon Ayuk. And I think you might feel the same way as I do. I love not necessarily the fight, but I was cool with the fight. Like I think it's good for one little dust up every training camp. If it happens every day, now you got an issue. But one little dust up a training camp, we getting after it. It's all good. But I also loved Fred Warner and even Jimmy Ward to a lesser extent, understanding the moment that this 49ers franchise is in. They've got an opportunity. The window's open right now. And they looked at a guy like Brandon Ayuk, who I think it all derives from the fact that they believe that he is super talented and has another level to reach. And they said, you know what? We're not going to let you not reach that level that you could reach just because, you went out all willy-nilly. We're going to push you, and you're either going to make it or you're not. But we're going to push you because you playing the best that you can, it helps everybody. That sense of the moment, that sense of your teammate, that leadership by Fred Warner, I think that's invaluable. I love the way he's been getting after it. And then afterwards, they've dapped up and everything is good. But to speak a little bit on that leadership that Fred Warner and, like I said, Jimmy Ward also seems to be bringing to this team right now.
Yeah, there's an edge that Fred Warner plays with. And we've seen that on the field, how he gets in people's faces. I remember when I think the 49ers were playing the Dallas Cowboys, and he made a tackle and then army crawled through someone's legs. So he's definitely someone who can do a little extra. And typically when it's your teammate, you don't mind unless it's your teammate and you're going up against him in practice. And, kind of antagonizing Brandon Ayuk a little bit. I think obviously Fred Warner had great intentions on getting the most out of Brandon Ayuk. But as Brandon Ayuk said, yeah, man, Fred Warner, he's annoying. And, I like it. It showed some dog, right? Everybody now they want to use that, oh, you got that dog, right? By Fred Warner, because Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk's a player who doesn't really talk. And you hear that from a lot of people. I even heard someone talking about when he was in the doghouse with Kyle Shanahan and how maybe Kyle Shanahan wasn't getting the response back that he was looking for, but it's just kind of how Brandon Ayuk is. So for him to kind of set things off a little bit with the whole Fred Warner thing and then come back and retaliate for one of his players as well, it's something that at least his teammates know, hey, man, he's a fighter, he's a dog, he's going to have their back, even if it is against your own. And one quick thing about that, offense and defense, they aren't typically tight like that. Unless you come in together or maybe, you end up hanging out with a guy. There were a few guys on the other side of the ball with the Jets that I end up hanging out with. But for the most part, a lot of guys hang out with guys on their side of the ball. You spend most of the time with them in meetings, defensive meetings or offensive meetings, et cetera, working out. You work out with your defensive group, you know what I'm saying? Especially through training camp. So I could see a scenario where they don't have as much interaction as maybe people think because they're like on the same team. So yeah, at some point it kind of does turn into like a us versus you type thing, and I think that's what we saw when the brawls kind of played out.
Eric Crocker with us here on Dealing with KC on KIFM West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320, driven by Lashers, Elk Grove Dodge, always live on the free Odyssey app. You mentioned Fred Warner having like a little bit of edge. It feels like this whole team right now has a little bit of edge, and you know, it's training camp, so you try to be careful with this stuff. But Kenny and I have been talking about it. It feels like this team is really locked in, and I don't know if that's rallying behind Trey Lance, but it feels like this team is like zeroed in, and not like revenge tour, not like getting back to the Super Bowl, but it feels like they're really focused on the task at hand. And this doesn't feel like training camp lip service, man. It feels like this team's got to focus right now.
Well, that's the culture that Kyle Shanahan has built with these guys. And Tabor Pepper, we had him on our podcast, Locked on 49ers, and he talked about the standard that Kyle Shanahan sets for the entire team. And they've had enough time now to really put their fingerprints on this roster and get guys in there that buy into the philosophy that they're selling. So I think that's what we're seeing now, how everyone comes together. Everyone has the right mindset. You know, sometimes it's in like an obvious player like Nick Bosa, but even then I heard his dad on the radio the other day talking about how, hey, you know, my son, he doesn't think about these accolades and things like that. Like his focus is 49ers and he's team first. And that was coming from the dad when they tried to ask him questions about, you know, how he felt about his son and certain accolades and whatnot. So they got the right guys in there that think about the team. And I know there are a lot of people that were a little frustrated with the situation with Deebo Samuel, but you know, as Deebo said, man, like it's just business. And when it came down to being on the field and playing for your brothers, playing for everyone on that team, you heard him, you know, playing against the Dallas Cowboys, like, hey, Kyle, like, let's go right now. Give me the ball any way possible. So they got the right guys in the building, and you know, I think that's what we're seeing right now when you hear how tight knit this group is.
The question that everybody's asking right now is what Trey Lance is going to look like and what he could bring to the table. It seems as though he's been a little up and down in this camp, whether that's his own play or the play of the defense, you know, being so stout. I'm not that concerned about Trey. Like, I think he'll be fine. I believe he's a guy that is just a feeling that I have him. He's always just going to figure it out. He may not look great from the start, but he's going to keep working to figure it out. So I'm not that concerned about him. But what have you seen from Trey so far in training camp? And are you concerned about him moving forward?
First, I'll start with, am I concerned? And the answer to that is no. Like, are there concerning things? Of course. And you're betting on the upside of Trey Lance. I always thought that was the plan. He is a guy that coming out of North Dakota State, didn't have a ton of experience, didn't play a whole lot of football, didn't throw a whole lot of passes. So it's almost kind of like this ball of clay that you get to mold into what you want. And when you hear about the mindset that he has and, you know, the focus and the attention to detail and the work ethic, all those things, they've seen that. Now it's just, you know, translating to the field and getting the best out of that as possible. And right now during training camp practices, I know we all see the reports every day. There has been up and downs. I was there over the weekend, Friday and Saturday. I thought he was pretty good. Like, it looked good. It looked like kind of what I was expecting. Made some throws downfield to certain guys, one-on-ones. The ball looked good. He was accurate on some passes over the middle. Also saw a couple passes where he missed. And then I always wanted to see, well, how is he going to respond to that? You know, he had a bad miss on his out route. Oh, man, he comes back, his 2-minute drill, and boom, 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 he's firing away. He also threw a pick six. So before the 2-minute drill, he threw a pick six to Jimmy Ward where he had pressure in his face to the left. He tried to flip and throw to his check down and did not see Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward picks it off, trots into the end zone. Well, how's he going to respond to that? Well, he went out there and had an amazing 2-minute drive and led down with a touchdown pass from 15 yards out with no time on the clock. So it's like, okay, that's really good. That's what you want to see. Well, Sunday, where I wasn't there, he had a bad practice. From all reports, it was not great at all. Probably his worst practice. And Kyle Shanahan talked about it today before practice saying, hey, I want to see how he responds to that. He had a rough practice, rough go. You know, we're trying to continue to kind of build and stack days together. Well, today, he had by far his best practice. So he followed up his worst practice with his best practice, where he was highly efficient today, making all the throws. So I think right now, those are things that you're going to get from him heading into the season. A little bit of inconsistency. I think the goal is to say, hey, can Kyle Shanahan game plan around Trey Lance's strengths? And I assume everyone, considering the weapons that he has out there with Brandon Ayuk, with Deebo Samuel, with George Kittle, with a run game, with Kyle Shanahan pulling the strings and the terrific defense, I think they'll be all right. There'll still be some growing pains and whatnot, but, limited playing time. He's just got to figure it out as he goes. And I don't think this was a play for, last year or even just this year, right? I mean, this is a long-term play for someone who has all the talent, has all the ability. You just got to bring him along the way you see best fit. And, obviously hope he gets there.
Yeah, those hyper critiques come when you're taken at the top of the draft, like Trey Lance was. But how many extra layers are on top of the fact he's replacing Jimmy Garoppolo, who, no matter what you say about him, like he got you to a couple of Super Bowls, he got you to an NFC Championship last year. Like he's obviously a good quarterback, and I imagine that's probably an extra measure of, well, you could have had Jimmy Garoppolo around this year, but you chose to do this, you chose to do that. Like I feel like that's another level of critique he has to deal with.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure you hear that all the time. You see it probably in the chat, you see it on social media as well. But Jimmy Garoppolo, he brought an intangible to the team that's hard to quantify through stats or anything like that. Obviously, he was highly efficient as far as the completion percentage goes. But I think most people that watch the games didn't think like, oh man, like they are winning all these games because of Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he did an amazing job of contributing to wins. I thought he did a great job of making timely throws. There obviously were a lot of frustrating moments as well. And I think, they kind of came to the conclusion that, man, we have to count on the team to take this guy so far, right? Like, I mean, division round playoffs, like the 49ers did not score an offensive touchdown. So a lot of that kind of falls on the quarterback, but the 49ers won. So it's like, oh, he gets that playoff win. I think Jimmy Garoppolo and his leadership abilities were great. And I think it was awesome for Trey Lance to be able to see, hey, this is how a professional acts. This is how a professional handles criticism, because Jimmy Garoppolo definitely faced a ton of criticism from either the fan base or people out there in the media as well. So seeing all that and what Trey Lance is going to go through, I think, being in the rooms with Jimmy Garoppolo probably helped him a ton. But yeah, you're going to hear that probably all the way until Trey Lance is winning football games, and then maybe the Jimmy Garoppolo talk would slowly fade away.
Crocky, we appreciate you, man. We're looking forward to a fun season together, man. Locked On 49ers podcast. Make sure you check it out. We appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate y'all having me on.
Appreciate it.